Hello and welcome to Bright Talk. Welcome to the People First Productivity Solutions channel on Bright Talk. I really appreciate you being here today. For those who are new to Bright Talk or to this channel, let me just give you a few logistics and setup items here. First of all, there are attachments and links, and if you click on that tab, you're going to see the bonus content that I've loaded up for you. I'll refer you back into here when I get to the pieces that are relevant. For now, the one thing that you might want to know right at the beginning is that the first attachment that I've given you is a PDF of the slides I'm going to cover today. I know some people like to print those off and have them for taking notes along the way. So help yourself to that if it's useful. Our topic today is soft skills are hard. And the point of this topic is to help people who are leaders at any level. This is not just for managers or senior managers, but it's about being leaderly, no matter what your job title or role. And it's about becoming well-rounded as a person in the work you do when you are leading others, when you're being leaderly. So I'm going to start with making the business case for becoming more well-rounded, and then I'm going to talk about how to do that. And as we go through the presentation, please don't hesitate, don't wait till the very end, but post your questions up for me as they come. I'll try to weave in the answers as I proceed, and I'll leave a few minutes at the end for questions too. At the very end of the presentation, I really appreciate it when you leave me a review. Tell me what you liked. Tell me what you'd like to see me doing differently, because I do these presentations every month, and the topics are always related to building organizational strength by putting people first. That's the mission of People First Productivity Solutions. So your feedback is really appreciated. It's completely welcome. And just in case we haven't met, I'm Deb Calvert. I'm the president of People First Productivity Solutions. You can see some of my credentials on screen there. What I'm going to be talking with you about today and in every one of these presentations is based on my experience as a consultant and coach in a wide variety of organizations, all different types of industries, all shapes and sizes of business, mostly in North America, but actually on almost every continent. And I'll be also giving you information that's based on research. I am a researcher, and I prefer to base the conclusions I draw on a body of evidence. So we'll be looking for that. And if we haven't already, there's also an attachment for you so that we can get connected on LinkedIn in case you want to follow other content that I put out there. There's a lot of it, and we do that on purpose through this company because we just want people to feel resourced and informed. Now, we're talking today about soft skills, and I think it's only fair to start with a definition. What do I mean by soft skills? What I'm talking about is actually a great big umbrella of all types of skills. It's everything related to communication, interaction with people. It includes, but is not limited to, emotional intelligence and being a good team player. It's about how you process information, so it involves your critical thinking skills. It also involves attitude and your nimbleness to adapt in times like this that are so volatile and uncertain. Now, the reason that we have to talk about soft skills is that they often get overlooked. As people get on a career track, they go and they earn their degree, or they have some credentials, and then they get into a job, and it's usually a frontline contributor role at first, and they demonstrate their technical proficiency in that role, and they continue, as they do that work and they gain experience, they continue building their functional skills and their technical knowledge, no matter what type of job it is. And then they get measured. They have performance management indicators, KPIs, and metrics and goals that are related to their output and to results that they drive through their effort, through the hours that they work, through the expertise that they bring to that job, the hard skills. And primarily in school and in frontline contributor roles especially, mostly training is focused on those hard skills to do that job. But then you know what happens. One day, suddenly, that's no longer adequate. It's not enough anymore. Everybody hits a wall. If they've always relied on their hard skills, they hit a wall where they can't get something done. They can't engage other people. They can't cause something to get the result that they need it to get because their soft skills were sidelined along the way. They didn't build, and they now don't have the personal attributes that enable them to interact effectively and harmoniously with other people. They can't collaborate. Perhaps they can't fully communicate. There's some barrier because now work needs to get done, at least in part, with or through other people. And I'm not talking about just because there was a promotion into management, although we often see that happening. This can happen in any job role at any time because soft skills are necessary whenever there's other people involved. Now, soft skills, they're critical for every single person who has to interact with others. I'm going to talk about inside your organization, interacting with other team members, but certainly this applies if people are interacting with customers or with vendors or partners. So what I'm going to show you is inside the organization in the interest of time here, but it certainly applies in a much broader fashion too. And I'm just sharing with you some random factoids here based on research. What I'm sharing with you that you'll see on screen probably isn't going to be unfamiliar. Chances are you've seen exactly this, but maybe you didn't have the research to back it up. Maybe you just sort of know that one of the issues you have with employee retention is that people don't feel like they're understood or heard. Or maybe you've experienced that there's low morale or there's some motivation that isn't happening. And so people leave. They don't find that the culture supports them and keeps them motivated. Maybe you've seen it in your organization, whether you're looking at your peers or looking across the organization. Maybe you've noticed that people want to be respected. In fact, this is essential, treating people with dignity and respect. And we can see that if you're listening live early June 2020, we can see this happening right now across our society. People need to be respected. Respecting others, choosing behaviors that demonstrate that respect, and dignifying others, that doesn't come with hard skills. That's completely related to soft skills. And we want not just our bosses and our senior managers in an organization to create that culture for us, but we want to be able to have colleagues and coworkers and peers who are friendly, who help us to feel like we have a sense of belonging in the organization. Now, the benefits of soft skills, and remember, first I'm making the case for why they matter. Pretty soon I'll get to how you can develop them. But these benefits, they extend well beyond personal effectiveness. You can see through some of these little data points on screen, this is about workplace culture, employee engagement, retention, productivity levels, succession management, customer satisfaction as a natural stem, and so much more. All of this is impacted by soft skills of employees in your organization. But for some reason, we tend not to talk about this. We tend to focus so heavily on the hard skills in what we measure, in what we manage around, and what we give feedback about. We sideline soft skills without meaning to, but we shouldn't because they're not optional. Sometimes we do. We hire, we reward, we promote people based on their superior technical or demonstrated functional skills, and we overlook a lack of soft skills even when we recognize that it's there. Maybe you've even heard people say things like, well, that's just Steve. Everybody knows how Steve is. but no one else can crank out more work in a single day than Steve can. And when I hear things like that, the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh, a poor Steve. Because he's doomed to be in that same job forever. And when he applies for a next level role or even a lateral move, he's going to be surprised, maybe even offended, that others see him as lacking. But people haven't told him. They've patted him on the back. They've given him promotions and raises and rewards. Not promotions maybe, but raises and rewards based on all that work he cranks out in a single day, or the quality of his work. But people haven't developed him and given him opportunities to build his soft skills. Well, well-rounded leaders work to develop both their hard skills and their soft skills throughout their careers. What you see there on screen, these are extremes. They're meant to help you see the contrast, and so some of them are stated a little bit in the extreme so that you can get that idea. The idea, ultimately, though, is to be able to do some of each, to be able to continuously be developing the hard skills and the soft skills of yourself and of people in your organization or on your team. And this has nothing whatsoever to do with personality. People tend to make some stereotypes. For example, people tend to think that if you're going to have soft skills, well, then you need to be able to have really good emotional intelligence, because that's what soft skills is really all about. And that's not true. Soft skills are much, much more. Or maybe you've heard this one, that soft skills just come more naturally to women than they do to men, or that they are conditioned somehow in women. But that's not true. You know people of all genders who are quite competent when it comes to soft skills like listening or empathizing. And you know people of all genders who are not as effective when it comes to soft skills. That's just a stereotype. And it's also a stereotype that there are only certain professions where soft skills are needed. Now, I will say, of course, some folks with certain personalities and preferences are going to gravitate to certain kinds of professions. Absolutely. But soft skills are needed anywhere that you're going to be interacting with other people. Soft skills are not optional. And soft skills are not the purview of extroverts alone. That's the perception. You saw it on the previous slide. The perception is that people with soft skills are extroverts, and extroverts naturally have soft skills. That's not true, either direction. In fact, people with more introverted preferences often are better listeners than people with extroverted preferences. And if I'm going to indulge in some stereotypes, I'll also go ahead and say, I know a lot of folks who are more introverted who are more reflective. They do more critical thinking before they form an opinion and share it with others. That, too, is a soft skill. So soft skills are for everybody. They're not optional. They're not the exclusive domain of a certain personality type or gender or anything else. They're broader than emotional intelligence. And at the same time, soft skills are not the end-all, be-all. You do need both hard skills and soft skills to be a well-rounded leader. A few more ideas here about setup. I want to point out that when it comes to building trust in the workplace, building trust, that's about human-to-human interaction. And while it's true that we will trust somebody to a certain point based on their expertise, based on our confidence in their work output, that doesn't mean that we'll trust them with something new, a time of change, an interpersonal relationship, a confidence that we might want to make with them. I'm talking about all of that, a deeper level trust. The benefit of trust, there are two things going on here, so look to the right first. The benefit of trust comes from the work of Covey and the speed of trust. And if you look across the top line, what it says there is when trust is high, the outcome of high trust is that you will reduce your costs of doing business and you'll reduce the amount of time it takes to get things done. Conversely, when trust is low, you will have higher costs and it will take longer to do things because of the rework, because of the fact that you're not perhaps delegating or sharing the work or giving all of the information needed for someone to do a superior job. So we need trust if we're going to have lower costs and it takes less time to do things. And if we want trust, we need to have soft skills. And what you see over on the left, that type gets pretty small, but remember, you can download these slides and blow it up if you need to. But what you see there are the 12 dimensions of trust. We do a lot of work with trust, and this is based on our research around trust. And these 12 dimensions often surprise people. When you first hear the word trust, you might be thinking honesty and integrity. Honesty and integrity are just two of the 12 dimensions. What surprises folks is that they don't view something like availability or accurate self-assessment as something that causes others to feel like they can trust you. But if you think about the people in your life, in your workplace, who you have maybe a little nagging doubt about, you don't fully trust them, and then you were to look at this list, you would probably realize that it's something here that's missing. Maybe they're very competent, you trust their work product, but maybe it's very difficult, they don't seem available to you, or they're not open, or maybe they don't seem to share information that would be constructive for the team. They hold back. And because of that, you have some underlying mistrust of them. So all of these require soft skills to have the awareness about them, and then to be able to build them. And when you can do that, when you can have soft skills and trust, ultimately, one of the ways this really impacts your leadership effectiveness is that it will be much easier for you to help people accept any change that you might be introducing. And let's face it, change is all around us. These days, the only place it's hard to get change is from a vending machine. It's really, really important, no matter what your job role, that you be able to influence and cause others to accept change. I'm talking about sometimes simple changes. Hey, I need your help in reformatting this report. Or can we start getting together weekly to talk about this project? Those are small changes. If you want people to readily accept them, you'll need for them to trust you, to trust your motives, to trust you as an individual, and you'll need soft skills to get to that point. What I'm showing you, this is the process of change. Anybody has to go through these phases. Before I can make change, I'm going to be experiencing a loss. The old way of doing things is not what we're going to be doing anymore, means I have to give something up about that. Maybe it's something I'm known for. Maybe it's something I worked really hard to build. Maybe it's something that's just my habit. I'm comfortable with it. So those endings, that loss, represent something emotional to me, and at a minimum causes me to be a little bit apprehensive. But then I'm going to enter into a transition phase. I'll get there more quickly if I trust the person who's asking me to make this change, if that person is empathizing with me as I process this change, and if I trust that person, I will more quickly move from my anxiety to more like a general discomfort. I'm going to do it, but it doesn't feel completely comfortable to me yet. I feel a little skeptical or maybe a little uncertain. Where you want me to be is at the new beginnings phase. I cannot get there with the snap of the fingers. I may never get there if I don't trust you and you're not helping me to get there using soft skills. So in business, we're asking people to make a lot of changes. Either that or the world around us is demanding that people make certain changes. And people who are effective as leaders at any level understand this and weave the pieces together so they have the soft skills that will help people. In fact, we know that soft skills enable you to get more from employees. So if you're a manager or somebody who's in an HR type function, soft skills are a secret ingredient for employees to feel comfortable getting into the flow. And maybe you've seen this before. This is the work of Dr. Csikszentmihalyi at the University of Chicago. The flow zone, that's the place where you want employees to be. This is peak performance. It's being in the zone or in the flow. And that only happens when the level of challenge is a little bit greater than a current level of skill. People who are unwilling to accept a little bit of challenge, usually at the core of that, are feeling uncertain, they're feeling mistrustful, they're feeling like it's too much that's being asked of them in terms of change without the support of trust and soft skills and empathy around them. So soft skills, my bottom line is this: soft skills are more than a kumbaya feel good. Soft skills are an essential ingredient for getting things done in business. Soft skills make any individual more effective. So now let's switch. We've been talking about lots of benefits. I gave you a whirlwind tour there of why it's important to develop soft skills across an organization. I'd like to shift now to how to do this. And what I am showing you on screen first, these are things that you can do if you are in a management role, a senior role, an HR role. These are things to help get soft skills development across your organization. I'm going to talk to you individually in just a moment, things you can do for yourself. But to embed soft skills in your organization, these are the top 5 ways to do that. And to do it consistently, this is not just a one-time announcement or one-time training class or a one-time statement that you make. This is something that needs to be woven into everything that's being done. In your organization, you might need to start at the top. If you have senior managers who have been promoted, rewarded, focused on their hard skills, and they lack soft skills, you already know it. They may or may not know it, but you're going to need for that to be demonstrated from the top. And those folks who don't have soft skills or don't exhibit those soft skills and model that for the rest of the organization, if there are business issues, there's probably a link, and your best bet is to get a coach, an executive coach for that person, stat. Once you have that coming from the top, you've got to identify it and let people know about it. We are successful here because of the empathy you see from the top, because of how we go out and solicit everyone's voices into the mix, because of our critical thinking. Make sure that people understand the link between your success and not just your technical, functional, marketplace superiority with your products, but because of your people skills that you are deliberately developing and celebrating. And do offer opportunities for people to build those soft skills. This is about awareness, and then it's about training and practice and promoting, celebrating when people demonstrate those soft skills, rewarding them, potentially embedding them into your performance management. I know that's a little tricky, but it is doable, and it does make sense, especially if it's based around your mission and your values. And as you're bringing new people into your organization, by all means, do look for the soft skills, the traits that make people successful in a role. Competency-based hiring usually looks at knowledge and skills. And if what you're primarily doing is looking at a resume and reviewing that resume, you may be one of the many, many companies who base your hiring on something other than soft skills, you're missing out on the third piece of competencies, which is the trait-based competency. There are some traits that are absolutely essential in most job functions. And in fact, if I had to weight the competencies that I'm hiring for, I'd probably favor those very most important traits that make people successful, because I can teach people the skills that they need to do a job. I can give people the knowledge. Yes, it will require time and effort, but giving people certain traits is a lot harder. It takes more time. It's riskier. If you're interviewing, screening, bringing people in without consideration of traits, you probably have a lot of disappointments in your hiring and a lot of difficulties when it comes to making internal promotions or helping people to see why they aren't fully ready for next level opportunities. Now I want to talk to you individually. Individually, soft skills work begins with an awareness. And one of those critical awarenesses is that every single person could be at a different place than where you are and probably has a different need than you do. It's our job, especially in management, but I will say for everyone, it's our job as humans to meet people where they are. Let me give you an example. I see this very often. People who are in senior management roles have often, on Maslow's hierarchy of needs here, they've often developed to the green band. They might even be up there in the blue band where they're self-actualizing and they're at their peak. But primarily you see people in the green band in that level of a job. And they expect other people are right there with them, either at this very same place where they're working to develop their reputation, where they have a high regard for themselves, and that's come from all their great achievements, and that they've earned the respect of a lot of people. And if they don't see people there, they might see them in the gold band, where people are accepted in the group, they have strong social affiliations within the organization, those relationships are making them highly effective. But here's the problem. People move up and down Maslow's hierarchy depending on their life situation and circumstances. And if you have a manager who you're thinking about promoting, let's say, but they are going through something traumatic, let's say a terrible divorce, they aren't probably at this time in that gold band or in the green band. They might be down there in the red band. They might even be feeling like they're in the purple band because they've lost their comforts of home, their safety, and maybe they're struggling for finding a reasonable place to live, and they're strapped for cash, and who knows what else. Understanding just this, the self-awareness about where people are and meeting them where they are instead of expecting them to rise to your level is critically important. But I would say this is, once you have the awareness, I would say that this is the most important soft skill of all. Now, I have to tell you, this is Deb saying this. I don't know of any formal research. I don't know that this is documented anywhere. If you know of something like that that proves or disproves my theory, I'd sure like to see it. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that out of all the soft skills, and there are many, that listening, good, quality, empathetic listening, is the one that will get you furthest and fastest to a new place. I do know that listening is considered to be a compensator competency. It's one of only two. And what that means is that if you have no other skills, hard skills or soft skills, people will give you grace. They'll be patient with you if you're just a very, very good listener. And of course, because you're a good listener, you'll learn faster too. So when you're a good listener, we also know that builds trust rapidly with other people. And it gives you more information. It gives you access to be able to empathize with people. And it gives you information so that you can do more critical thinking. You'll have a bigger picture to work with. So we'll call listening the gateway to other sorts of soft skills. And what I've put on screen for you to use later is just a little self-assessment. You can tell pretty quickly whether you and or other people are listening passively with ears alone, it's really just sound coming around you, or whether you're actively listening, engaging your brain, processing the information, going for comprehension, or whether you're taking it to the next level, empathic or empathetic listening, where you are seeking to really understand not just the content, but the emotion behind what's being spoken. And you're thinking of the other person's needs and stepping metaphorically into their shoes to genuinely connect and understand what's going on with them. If you don't do anything else, I know that I have room here, and most people do. So if you don't do anything else to develop your soft skills, tune up your listening. We get sloppy, we get hasty. We backslide even when we have good listening skills. So it's one of the most important soft skills. It will give you many personal benefits to tune it up, and there's no downside of being a better listener. Now, I want to return to the organization for just a minute, since I opened up a conversation through listening about communication. And after all, individuals, we all operate in organizational ecosystems. We all contribute to and take from whatever the group is doing, whatever's going on there. So what I wanted to share with you, what I've put up on screen here, this is a list of common problems in organizations. And typically, when someone shares a problem like this with me in their organization, someone's name or a group of people, their names are attached. They're blamed for the problem. And those folks that are blamed, they're also expected to fix the problem. They might not be given tools or training or resources. It's just that they should figure it out and fix it. But when I'm consulting with organizations, that means diagnostically, I'm looking in with an objective view. What I more often notice is that there are these issues more often are stemming from communication gaps versus employee problems. The employee problem, or the item listed on screen, that's the outcome, but the root cause problem is often a communication gap. And that's why these problems recur even when it's different employees in the mix. So, soft skills are really important for improving both sides of communication, no matter what your job role is. The two sides of communication are sending messages. You can attack communication gaps by sending clear, concise, frequent messages about the things that are important, and giving one-to-one feedback and checking for understanding. As the sender of the message, you should do all those things. But again, no matter what your job role, you also have a responsibility in communication for how you receive the message. That too is a soft skill. And it involves listening, but it also involves asking for clarity when needed, for checking in to make sure there's nothing else that's left unsaid, to read body language and tone so that you understand what's a priority or what is coming across as a mixed message and knowing how to sort through that, to deal with the ambiguity when the communication isn't happening at all. Both sides are soft skills. Both sides can attack these 10 problems that you see on screen. And now, primarily for managers, let's talk about this. If you have been promoted because you were a rock star in your technical or functional role, congratulations, that's awesome. It happens a lot, and you should feel really good about that. And at the same time, you should know that what got you here won't get you there to the next level and won't be enough for you to be fully effective in the role that you're now in. In addition to all that awesomeness, that expertise, that education, that experience that you've built up, all of your hard skills, a manager's effectiveness depends on developing and engaging other people, of getting work done through others. And what that means is that you have to access soft skills in yourself to understand people, to meet them where they are, to help them to develop, to get them through any roadblocks they're having, whether those are real or perceptual, so that they can continually grow, so that the capacity of your team and of the organization continually grows, and so that you're able to meet new challenges and implement changes that are needed. And all of that is about how you allocate your time. Well, that too, time management, is a soft skill. It is a stem off from critical thinking, being able to prioritize and evaluate so that you spend your time in the right ways. Okay, now I know that I've packed a lot into this session. I hope that I'm not going too fast because there are 3 more things I want to share with you. The next 2 are diagnostic, and, well, I'd say that all 3 of them are diagnostic. It's just that the third one is going to be a little bit different of an exercise. And this is primarily for you to be working on after the presentation. So as I'm about to show you these next 3 pieces, I do want to point out we only have 10 minutes left, so this is a good time to start posting any questions that I haven't answered yet. Okay, now, I've mentioned critical thinking a lot. And I am going to do, since this is such a big topic in and of itself, I am going to be doing a future presentation on this channel about critical thinking, and I encourage you to subscribe so you won't miss anything that I present here. You'll at least know what the topics are and have an option to come back. But if you don't want to wait for that one, I gave you a link in the attachments over to my YouTube channel directly into the playlist of a series called No More Lazy Thinking, and it's about 45 or 7-minute videos about different aspects of critical thinking. So if this is an area where you decide you'd like to do some work, by all means, feel free to access that. We also have training courses related to critical thinking, so if this is something that many in your organization have a need for, well, then we ought to talk about this. Critical thinking, of course, you already know, is more important today than probably it has ever been at any time in our history as humans. And that's because we are bombarded with conflicting information. We are needing to implement rapid change and to be really responsive and to feel effective and in control at the same time. When all of this volatility, all of this uncertainty is everywhere around us, how do we even survive if we can't use mechanisms and skills to sort it all out? A lot of frustration and a lot of stall-outs happen because of gaps in critical thinking. Now, what you're seeing on screen, these are the ways to diagnose if there is a lack of critical thinking. And I know some of them are going to feel a little personal. They might cause you to have a bristle, a defensive sort of a reaction. That's expected. I understand that. The acknowledgement of these limitations is usually much harder than the work needed to shift and to think more logically and more broadly. We fall into a lot of unconscious biases and decision traps, and that's what causes us to miss out on critical thinking that could help us to be more effective. Now, I said earlier that emotional intelligence is not synonymous with soft skills, but emotional intelligence is a big part of that giant umbrella called soft skills. We'll call it one of the pillars underneath soft skills, along with critical thinking. And emotional intelligence is something that you probably already sense you're missing or that others are missing, but I still wanted to give you a checklist of 10 things that would cause you to say, yeah, maybe this is an EI, an emotional intelligence issue. If this is an area where you or someone else needs to do some work, I'll tell you two things just in the limited time we have. First of all, it's partly about self-awareness. You can become much more emotionally intelligent if you are willing to become more self-aware. How do my actions impact others? How do my words affect others? How do my technical and functional skills and my drive to use those impact others? What is affecting me and my emotional state, my stress level, my productivity, my effectiveness? Right? It's getting self-aware about things like that that will cause you to be more emotionally intelligent. If you or someone you would like to support is struggling with that self-awareness or with emotional intelligence, there are some great assessment tools out there, and coaching might be an option that you want to consider also. Let me know if you have questions about any of that. And then, last but not least, and then I've got some questions I want to be sure to answer, this is what you're aiming for. So we've talked, amongst all of the different types of soft skills, today we've talked mostly about these four. There are others. But if you're doing a slightly different type of diagnostic, like where do I want to be, that's over on the far right-hand side. You want to be exceptional. Certainly you want your skills to be sufficient. And if you're looking for the biggest gaps and opportunities to help people, that would be in the column that I've labeled insufficient here. And these are just a few examples of the progression needed for having a well-rounded set of soft skills, for being able to develop as a leader. I gave you a link to an ebook. It's a pretty long one, but it includes a full assessment of other soft skills like these that show you these contrasts so you know what you're aiming for. Okay, I've answered a couple of these. Let me just, here's one I haven't answered. As a mid-level manager, which do you believe would be the most effective tool to convince my senior leaders of the importance of focusing on soft skills as much as hard skills? Well, if your senior managers are like most, what they are focused on are whatever the board or the stakeholders are driving. That could be profitability, could be productivity, it could be something else. But if you know what their primary goal is, what we need to do is then show them the business case. How do soft skills lead to higher levels of profit, for example, if that's what they care about? And there is research. There's a ton of research out here about that. In fact, I didn't do it as an attachment, so I'll email it to you separately. There is a body of work, the ultimate, I believe it's called The Ultimate Guide to Employee Engagement. It's about 98 pages full of statistics that prove how soft skills and engagement and related work will, in fact, improve organizational health. So 98 pages is a lot. You're also welcome to call me. Let's just talk about it, and I'll help you build that business case. Here's another question. Can the culture of a company ever change if the management itself doesn't have soft skills? Great question. The answer depends on what you mean by management. If we're talking about a few senior leaders at the top, yes, it can, especially within a team or an area where a director or a manager is putting a lot of emphasis there. However, it is better to try to start from the top, and because senior managers do care about organizational health and performance, whatever gap, whatever it is that they're striving toward, if we can just show them that gap and how we can prove to them, and I have reams of case studies, we can do this. We got to show them the connection between what they want to achieve and how soft skills can get them there. Okay, one more question I think that I have answered, need time to answer, and if I don't get to you, I will email you. How do I develop my team's abilities to increase capacity so we can meet new challenges and adapt to change when our resources, like time, are very limited? So this is about doing it at the same time, not doing it aside from. Now, I could tell you that if you did this separately, it would be time that's well invested, and you'd be able to see a return on that investment later. But the reality is, time-strapped organizations often won't set that time aside. That's just going to be a barrier we can't overcome. It won't happen. So instead, I'd rather come in with the approach of how do we do these things at the same time, little by little, so that the way you do the work, how you do the work, is featured alongside the results. We're looking for getting the right results the right way for long-term organizational health, for employee development, for engagement that increases your productivity, your customer satisfaction, your top-line revenue, and your bottom-line profitability. By the way, there are also other webinars on this channel that you can go back to and listen to that walk you through exactly how all those pieces fit together. Take the attachments, give me a call, let me know how I can help you. Here at People First Productivity Strength, this is what we do. We build organizational strength by putting people first. I've given you, last attachment, a menu of about 150 webinars that we use to craft customized programs for teams that want these. It's a menu of manager and HR training topics that become your own development program that help you to build that strength inside your organization. Be in touch with me. Don't forget to link in with me. And thanks in advance for leaving me a review today.